Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How you doing tonight?
Good, good. You're just finishing your post-game meal?
Yep. My wife and I are a little too nervous to eat before the game, so we just put it off. And of course, once the game starts, I'm fully engaged in the action. And during the intermissions, going through our grade A shots project, even though it was a little more limited in scope tonight by the nature of the game. Only 6 for each side in that game. It was pretty tight checking affair. Just 21 shots each, but
yeah, very
nice,
low event.
Nice win for
I think that's
Edmonton.
I think that's the lowest event game of the year, Bruce, if I'm not
down
mistaken. I'm almost certain of it. For both teams to be
for the
6.
Combined total.
Yeah, I mean they were both playing pretty ferocious defensive hockey, and it was a titanic defensive struggle. Although Edmonton did get that early lead, which was
nice to have the lead in games like that, eh?
Sure is, man. They've gotten the lead in every one of the comeback games, and it's been
Florida's never tied any of them up.
So significant that that's the case. Anyway, Bruce, let's get into it. Our 2 good things, 2 bad things, 2 numbers in 1 conundrum podcast. What's your first good thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna single out defensive play was such a big thing in this game. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who had, I thought, a stellar game on the defensive side of the puck particularly, and very good shot shares. Like Florida only had 3 shots during his 13 minutes of even strength play, and he himself blocked. What'd you do there, Nuge? He blocked 3 shots himself, and same number as goalie had to. 3 takeaways in this game. 2-0 in the face-off circle, but 2 key plays for me. One was the great shot block he made in the second period that had a fortuitous bounce out of the zone and up to where Zach Hyman could pursue it, going all alone, deep Sergei Bobrovsky, and pot the 3-0 goal very late in the second period, just before the intermission. That was a huge play. And then there was another play that was probably just as big in the third period, after Florida had cut the lead to 3-1, and there was a situation where the Panthers controlled the puck in Edmonton's territory, worked it back to the point. There was an outside shot that Sam Bennett tipped on net, and because of the deflection, it was an uncontrolled rebound that spurted out to the side, and it looked like Bennett was going to have the whole empty net to slide it into until Nuge just completely neutralized them with a terrific one battle with a goal on the line. You lose that battle and it's a 3-2 game with quite a few minutes left. And Nuge neutralized Bennett in that crucial situation. And to me, those were 2 standout plays, one of which resulted in an Edmonton goal, one of which prevented a Florida goal. And he was another, 2 minutes plus on the penalty kill that had another 3 for 3 night, 2 for 2 in the face-off dot. He doesn't do a lot of face-offs on the wing, but he won. I remember one key one he won in the D zone, and just lots of little small things that he did right in a game where the little things kind of added up for the Oilers, I thought.
It was a big game. That top line, I thought, was huge for the Oilers, like in terms of being a trustworthy line on defense, getting the job done on defense. Same with the Henrique line. Those 2 lines, when they were out there, I got a pretty good sense that the Oilers were going to not get scored on. we're going to make the plays. So, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was part of it. So excellent work. They moved him up to the top line, interestingly. Yep. And Fogle down. I'm not exactly sure why they did that.
Worked out well.
Not sure why they did it, but it did. It certainly worked. They won the game, so can't complain about it. And
Fogle scored with Draisaitl, and Nuge got an assist with playing with Hyman. Worked out.
Worked out offensively for sure. That was a fantastic goal by Draisaitl and Fogle.
Yes.
So Bruce, my first good thing is the Oilers' second goal early in the second period, and just a moment before controversy erupts and kind of overwhelms the game on a certain level. But it's we've talked about this before, against a team like Florida, which is aggressive tactically and physically on the forecheck. They're in there. They've won games. They've gotten this far up with their forecheck, going after teams both in the offensive zone and in the neutral zone, pinching hard, shutting down the other team in the neutral zone, shutting them down in the offensive end. And I don't know if it's counterintuitive, because you might think, well, you have to be, careful against a team like that and carefully pass the puck out and blow, but that really doesn't work. What works against the pressing team, is going right at them, making long passes, and taking it hard to the net of their net, and beating their pressure that way, making them really pay for it with in a significant way with the highest level of chances against them. And starting in about the Oilers, Dallas tried this, the dirty Dallas technique of cherry picking. They were doing this against the Oilers, and the Oilers learned something. I think maybe if Knobloch didn't have that in his playbook, he certainly has adopted it, because
cherry picking 101.
As this series has gone along, and especially just game 4, it took off. They did it, and this was a huge play. The Oilers they're just up 1-0. This game can go either way. And Ekholm gets the puck behind the net, and what does he do? He spots Janmark at the way far away at the blue line where he's supposed to be cherry picking, and he whips it around the boards hard. Yeah, Janmark gets it. Janmark charges in and makes an absolutely fantastic pass to Rico, Adam Henrique, who his finish is exemplary. Just a great shot, a great goal. And that's utterly demoralizing to a pressure team like that, to have that happen to them. They're not used to it, I don't think. And I think it's unsettling for them, Bruce. Paul Maurice after the game talked about the lack of speed. And I think it throws in this element of hesitation to the Florida forechecking, the Florida scheme of pressure. When you're getting beat like that, you start to look over your shoulder as soon as the other team gets the puck, and maybe slow down a bit, because you don't want to get beat again for a goal against. Happened again tonight. Huge moment in the game, and great execution by all 3 players on the play.
Yeah, just about perfect. The long pass by Ekholm up the wall was safe and on the target, and Janmark skedaddled into the zone. That saucer pass across the slot. I think Florida must have been making a line change at the time, because it was a 2-on-1. There was only one D-man left to handle the 2 guys. And Janmark delivered the pass, very, very on time. Sometimes he holds the puck a bit too long to make his play, but he didn't hear. And he hit Henrique. And then Henrique hit the post on the way into the net. Perfect shot right inside the far post. And bam. Here we are, first minute of the second period, and from a Florida perspective, their deficit has doubled. And that turned out to be the game winner.
The only downside of that goal, Bruce, is all 3 of those guys are UFAs. Mm-hmm. So if you I'm putting on my GM's hat here for a second. Exactly. Like, what is it going to take? It's easy to imagine right now. Some teams offering Connor Brown like $2 or $3 million a year, Janmark $2 million, Henrique $3 million. Like this, why wouldn't you? Like, these are these players are just crushing it on the hockey's biggest stage. They're part of Edmonton's second best line right now in the playoffs in this series. I don't think it's a controversial statement. They've been just fantastic. Yeah, in the series, not in the playoffs, but in the series.
I read some scuttlebutt the other day that Janmark would sacrifice a little salary to get term, and I'm thinking, boy, you want 2 years? I'll give you the same 1 million as before for 2 years if you want 2 years. Hey, but I think his price tag will be higher. Like he's really showed his value. You know, this was his 90th career playoff game. Like this guy's been around. He's got over 500 games in the regular season. He's been on a few teams, good teams. You know, he was on Dallas when they went and did that big run to the finals from the bubble here. He was on Vegas. He's on the Oilers now, a very good team. And he's a pretty useful guy to have around. So
he's been fantastic. I mean, he hasn't been like he's not as great a player as Esa Tikkanen, but he's had that kind of the Oilers needed kind of a Tikkanen player.
A feisty little guy,
and he's been he's had that. Yeah, he's had that Tikkanen aspect this playoff series. So
I described him as hard-nosed in the player grades. I've just gotten to his grade before we started the podcast here, and I thought, what's a good adjective for the way this guy plays? Because he doesn't back down from anybody. And I love his edge. He got into it with Tkachuk tonight, and they both went off. Well, that's all right. Don't mind that. And he's not shy in the scrums one little tiny bit. He's quite comfortable in there, and I'm here for it.
And thank goodness that Chris Knobloch has excellent taste in hockey players. There was all kinds of local hockey experts, self-styled experts, who would have sat Janmark or shot him into the sun at points in the season. They just didn't like his game and his style of play. I don't get it. Like, I think if you look at his defensive play, has always been top drawer, like the best defensive winger on the Oilers. Hyman's actually really had a really good year on defense too, I should say. But Janmark has been the best defensive winger on the Oilers for a couple of years running. And it's when he starts to add on some aggression and some attacking play, and he's got both in his game.
7 points in the playoffs now.
Yeah, he was always a good player this year, and now he's become a great player in the playoffs. So good for him.
And plus for any of the guys that are regulars on the penalty kill unit, because that group has been dominant. And he and Brown in particular, because they've been delivering offense on the penalty kill in addition to the outstanding sort of primary function of the job of the unit, which is to kill the penalty without giving in any goals. Well, they've been not giving in any goals, and they've scored 3 when they've been out there. So what's not to like?
Bruce, what's your second good thing?
I'm going to go, this guy's getting lots of praise, but usually not in games like this. But I'm going to say Evan Bouchard, I thought, had an outstanding game for Edmonton tonight. I just liked his presence out there. He was, in the first period, very strong offensively, delivered a couple of really good chances. But I just liked the puck always seemed to be going in the right direction when he was out there. And certainly the shot shares, 23-11 shot attempts, 10-6 shots, 2-0 goals. And Bouchard's time. He didn't get any points tonight. But that did not stop him from playing a very effective game. And he too had 3 takeaways, a couple of block shots, 6 shots on that, 1 hit, which he just absolutely crunched. I can't remember who the guy was, but Bouch just leveled him with a really good check. And just not a lot of sort of things going wrong when he's out there, and a whole lot of, he's got the puck on his stick, it's going the other way, it's out of the zone and going up the ice, and he was a commanding figure in this game without, piling in 2 or 3 points. He just did his job and did it very effectively. Led the game in ice time as well, like he's a big minutes guy now.
So he's playing tough competition, Bruce, and he's got the lowest rate of major mistakes on grade A shots against in the playoffs for an Oilers defenseman, playing heavy minutes against tough competition. He has been the Oilers' best defensive defenseman in the playoffs. And again, I think we remarked on like what a strange thing that is to say. But I think you can defend it. I could defend that position quite well. He's got all the hallmarks of it. He's getting the job done against the very best attacking players in the NHL consistently. That's remarkable. And again, I think it's because he's such a smart hockey player. We see that intelligence blossoming even on the attack where he's always been good. But that deke he's making where he goes around a guy and cuts to his stick side, makes a deke around to his stick side and then gets off the shot. That's a relatively new thing. But on defense, I just think he's reading the plays really well.
Yep.
And he's doing that essential thing, which is to realize that they're not going to score from the corner. They're not going to score from behind the net. They will score from the slot. And he is covering the slot very well. He's looking for the danger man creeping in, and he's on that. And that's what really smart. That's why NHL defensemen, when they get to be 25, 26, 27, 28, become much better defensemen because they get used to doing that. And he's doing it. So way to go.
His game has grown in leaps and bounds, and certainly it's the offense that draws the notice and the headlines and so on, but it's an all-ice game that's just getting better and better and better.
Good stick and fairly strong, surprisingly strong. So
well, it's the second time I've seen him. The guy took a run at him and he wound up on his ass because Bouchard just shrugged him off. It was Ekblad the other time, huge guy, took a big run at him and he wound up on his butt. Yaroslav Pozar style. You want to run at it? Take a run at me, come at me, bro. And down he goes. So you gotta like it.
Bruce, my second good thing was the decision to challenge the goal, the offside goal. And I know people hate that rule, and I know that you've complained about it bitterly.
Yep, I hate
thinking
you got to play by it.
And I believe I've agreed with you. You usually bring it up, but I nod along, and I tend to agree with you that the NHL would be better without that rule. It just
for linesmen. I mean, you need calipers to measure this one.
Yeah, it's just they seem like they take away good goals. Now they did. That said, I think they got this right. I think but and I think that the Oilers probably had a view from above early on that showed them. So the video coaches Noah Segal and Chris Knobloch, they would be in on the decision. I'm not sure if there's other people involved, but it was really close. And they have to essentially, the on ice officials called that a goal and they called it onside when it happened. So they have to be sure that their decision was incorrect in changing it. That was a very, very bold move because the Oilers then are just up 2-1. Huge goal.
Power play there, and you can see what's going to happen next.
Yeah. So what a risk, but it worked. It's and it reminded me of the McCarr goal a few years ago that went against the Oilers and how painful that was at the time. That must have been the very painful and galling moment for fans of the Florida Panthers.
And then they scored on the power play too.
Yeah,
Avalanche did.
The Avalanche did. After the game, Paul Maurice said he doesn't know. He can't be sure. He said he wouldn't have challenged it himself, though, based on what he saw. But he didn't know what the Oilers coaches saw with their video review. And after he sees some of the angles that have been on the internet, I think they clearly do show that the puck wasn't over the line and the back of the skate was in the air and it was offside. But just by as Reed Wilkins, Ched said, by 1/20th of a puck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about right.
Good line from Reed, because that's what it was.
Yeah.
And that's really tough. I felt for the Florida fans in that moment, honestly, because that was a huge talk about a momentum shift. 2-0. Yeah, you're back in it. You've got life.
10 seconds after the 2-0 goal.
Yeah.
10 seconds they scored. And I was swearing away.
And then it's just stomped out of you in the most ruthless, kind of officious manner. The petty bureaucrats come after you and they get you.
Uh-huh.
So the Florida Panther fans, my heart goes out to you on that play. That was a tough one to take. And if you're really upset and really mad tonight, I get it.
Got him for
We
tax evasion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
1 mile
That's
over the speed limit, David. Can't have
lawfare.
that.
All right, Bruce. This leads to my bad thing though, because that could have easily been onside, and the play leading up to it was okay. You're up 2-0. You just scored, and you get caved in like that on a rush. Now it was a tough play. Philip Broberg gets the puck on the boards. He's on his backhand, and it's a tough play. And it happened again later in the period again, where he made a mistake that led to a dangerous chance. I can't remember if it was on or off net, but anyway, it's a tough spot playing her offside. And we can, if Brett Kulak didn't want to do it, Bruce, and opted out of that, and that's why Philip Broberg's there. Maybe we know why, because Broberg puts it up there, and Florida pair picks it off at speed and charges right in. Is it the goal scorer Barkov who does that? I can't remember who picked it off. Anyway.
Yeah, and he scored on the rebound. There was actually 2 dangerous
right.
shots in those
So
10 seconds.
Barkov charges right in there. Now Leon Draisaitl has a chance to make a play, but he's just caught a bit flat-footed and doesn't get in there in the right way, and he fails. He loses the battle to Barkov. Darnell Nurse is covering off another player, but he also gets beat by Barkov's move on that play. And Warren Fogle is on the back check, and he's unable to take out Barkov too, who's a powerful, skilled, excellent attacker. So it's not surprising that he's going to, off a turnover, that he will make these kinds of plays.
Right.
So the other players were also culpable on the play. And it would have been a really tough moment for the Oilers if that's 2-1. I don't know how the game changes, Bruce. I get the sense Florida might have come back in that game. Like, it was just such a big play right after they scored.
Yeah, no, to get
Kind of
right
thing that
back
changes,
to one, that
changes
would
the
have
feel
changed a lot
of a
things.
game, doesn't it? So you never know. And so those mistakes cumulatively added up to what could very well have been a goal against. So that's my bad thing.
Yeah, Broberg, he had trouble on his backhand a couple other times as well, where
Yeah.
he tried to get the puck up the boards and he just couldn't get anything on it. And it might as well just been a pass to the guy on the point, right?
He's got to learn if he's not can't make that play with some gusto the backhand, to just backtrack, just turn back with the puck, regroup, and make the confident play. Like I think he's back to struggling a little bit with his confidence in the last couple of games, and those plays were examples. I think that there was room on that play for him to backtrack with the puck instead of trying that play, just go back in your own zone, come at it again. And he's generally playing. I thought this was a better game for him than the previous game for him and Nurse in the previous game. But he had a few iffy moments because of that backhand situation, which is not easy to deal with.
No, it's definitely not. He's had a pretty good series, but I thought last game he and Nurse got caved.
They did.
And this game, a little better, but there were still some moments that were pretty iffy.
What's your bad thing?
And just that said, Broberg is bringing up his game log.
I mean, to give him credit, Bruce, the turning point of the series was him. In some ways, it's two things. It's the goaltending situation, the switch between the hot goalie from Bob to Skinner, but the Oilers moving away from CC Nurse and getting Broberg there with Nurse has been a major turning point. I mean, I'm not upset or bitter about much in this series or this playoffs, but that decision to go with CC Nurse in the first game is still baffling to me. And I hope someone eventually asks Chris Knobloch that. Maybe after if they win the Stanley Cup, ask him then when he's at a good move. What the heck were you thinking? Anyway,
Broberg is +7 in the Stanley Cup Finals now.
Yeah, so he must be doing something right. I hear you, Bruce. Yeah. He is doing something right.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Anyway, so my bad thing is the one Florida goal, and it came off a similar play where a defenseman tried to make the play with his backhand and couldn't get anything on the clearing shot and essentially passed it to the other team, this time being Cody Ceci. off of one face-off in the Edmonton defensive zone after a kind of suspect icing call, I thought, early in the third. And Ryan won the face-off, and Cece had, as I recall, sort of a chance to drive it up on his forehand up that and out that side, and he decided to go back behind the net, and then he just ladled this soft pass off the boards that was easily picked off by the point man, Kulikov. Draisaitl, who was playing left wing because Ryan was out taking the face off, got a little bit on the wrong side of Kulikov, and then just chaos ensued with who was the assist maker.
They went around. They were around Fogel. Fogel got burnt on the
Warren
deke,
Fogel big
and then
time
Kulak got beat too
by Verhaeghe. And then Kulak, well, he kind of got caught between a rock and a hard place because Barkov had the option to pass back to 55 goal scorer um, Sam Reinhart. And so Kulak was, I think, playing the pass, and I'll leave the goalie the shooter, and I'll take away the pass. And he went down on one knee, Darnell Nurse style, and we know how that ends.
We do.
And Barkov, I mean, to his credit, he made a good power move, and because nobody ever challenged him directly, he was just able to take it right around Stuart Skinner and stuff it home. And this was like a minute and a half into the third, and already it's 3-1, and already it's hang on to your hat time. To the Oilers' credit, they mostly kept them away. Had a huge penalty kill after that, but there was that was a series of mistakes that they paid for with a puck in the net. So kind of an obvious choice is a bad thing from a game with not a whole lot of them.
On first blush, Leon wasn't on the boards where he needed to be to make that play. But if you think about the Oilers' breakout play, where that winger's counted on to be far up the ice, maybe blowing the zone is actually the strategy in the play.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just thinking, well, the defenseman's going to make a really hard pass, a hard rim, and I'm going to be there. And maybe, I mean, I didn't, watching the play, I thought, where are you, Leon? What are you doing? But that could have been actually the right play.
I thought marginal on Leon, but I came to the same conclusion I think that you did, that he wasn't on the boards and he wasn't on the right side of Kulikov. But I mean, you could see what he was trying to do, but it was a little bit aggressive, especially when you consider 3-0 lead.
Well,
that's is to win the board battle, dancing over the line.
There is that, Bruce.
That didn't happen. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe the strategy changes based on the score of the game, and 3-0 in third period. You just protect. You don't need to score again. You need to get the puck out. So I think we'll stick with the mistake on that play for him.
Yeah.
Okay. Numbers. I guess I'll go first. I've got, what was Bob's save percentage in this game, Bruce?
3 goals on 19 shots. So not terrific.
So this is Bob's third bad game in a row, sub 900 save percentage. Quite a bit below.
842 tonight. So I think it was 826 last game and 6 game.
Yeah. So these are the 3 worst games. Only one other time has he had 3 sub 900 games save percentage in a row in the season. He's just replicated that with 3 of the worst 10 games he's had all year. Just now against the Oilers. So you could say he's due for a change and a bounce back because he's done that all year. He's always bounced. He was just so he's not prone to long streaks of bad play. You just never know though, right? Like, this is different. The pressure's on, and he's got a different kind of team attacking against him and a different style of hockey than was played all year. There's not a lot of shots. So that's going to ravage your save percentage as well if they're holding out for the good shots. But my number, Bruce, is 0. And the Oilers, it's been widely stated now Connor McDavid's going to win the Conn Smythe Award, which makes me happy. I think he deserves it, but win or lose. But the Oilers won with Connor McDavid getting 0 points tonight. And really, Connor McDavid, let me just check our scoring chance plays here. I was remarking on this. It suddenly occurred to me in the third period.
Didn't have a whole lot going on offensively. Didn't have the puck on his stick a whole lot.
Brucey had one major contribution to a grade A shot. One. And 0 points. Like, so he's averaged close to 7 a game in the Stanley Cup Finals, 7 or 8. In the finals, he's just
11 points,
out of this world good. And in the playoffs, he's been out of this world good. Mm-hmm. And just so, the Oilers won with Connor McDavid not getting a point. And I don't know, we will always hear the narrative, the Oilers are a 2-man team or the Oilers are a 1-man team, blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. No, they're not. This is the team of Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard. It's the team of Brett Kulak, and it's the team of Matthias Janmark and Connor Brown and Adam Henrique and Evander Kane and Zach Hyman and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Stuart Skinner and all kinds of players, Bruce, who have been really strong and have had some great games in the playoffs. So this just highlights that in a game where McDavid wasn't a factor, the Oilers came through, and it was one of the, the biggest game of the year because that's what they all are right now. Each game as we get closer to the final is the biggest game, and we're heading to the biggest game. But
McDavid had no shots on net in this game. Also, wow. The only time he found the score sheet was the penalty he took, which I thought was an excellent penalty by him. This was after now I'm remembering it. It was after the Broberg turnover I described earlier, where his weak backhand didn't clear the zone, and all of a sudden there was a guy alone in front that McDavid came back and eliminated and took away a way better scoring chance than that play than Florida was able to generate in the 2 minutes that followed. So definitely a good penalty. And I thought he played a pretty strong defensive game. He just didn't have much going on at the other end of the ice. And judging by the score, he at least, I think, played to the score and just made sure he wasn't getting burned being too aggressive offensively.
That's what I like about him right now, Bruce. He's playing to win. And he didn't make one mistake on a grade A shot, according to our numbers. Right. He's playing to win. Like, the trouble on the ice wasn't when he was at center, right? He's figured that out. Because earlier in the playoffs, there was a lot of goals scored when he was on the ice. And against Dallas and I think Vancouver, he struggled defensively. There was lots of grade A shots and lots of goals against where he was one of the culprits. He's got on top of that in this series and brought the most mature hockey Connor McDavid's ever played, and still having the spectacular in it. But just just playing that Bobby Clark game without the hacking, just super smart two-way hockey, super aggressive and incredibly intense and ferocious. He's got it all right now, Connor McDavid. So this game, I'd still say he had a good game. He was a good player. He was a good player out there. You have a center who plays defensive hockey the way he just played that game. I love that personally. I think that's a huge part of the center's job, and he got her done.
Well, he was on the ice for 14 minutes, and the Oilers outshot in a game that was even. The Oilers outshot Florida 8-3.
There you go.
3 shots on net in 14 minutes at even strength. So
nice.
Yeah.
What is your number?
Hard to complain with that. I got 2 numbers, but they're very related. They're 16 and 70. They both have to do with Zach Hyman. 16 being the number of goals he scored in the playoffs. This year, 16 goals. Last couple games we've been talking about players setting records for assists in the playoffs. Bouchard passing Paul Coffey last game. McDavid passing none other than Wayne Gretzky the game before that. Well, Hyman didn't quite set a record for goals in the playoffs, but he did set a record for goals in the playoffs in the 21st century. He's the first guy since Joe Sakic in 1996 to score over 15 goals in the playoffs. Only 2 guys to hit 15 in the Cap era are a couple guys you may have heard of before, Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin. 15 goals each. Pretty good snipers, those guys. Both won the Rocket Richard Trophy several times in the case of Ovechkin, 9 times. Anyway, here's good old Zach Hyman on his worst contract in the history of the NHL, according to one pundit, who now has the most goals in any one playoff season in the Cap era, and indeed this entire century, and in the last 28 years. And 70 is the extension of how many goals he scored this season and playoffs now. He had 54 during the season, now 16 in the playoffs. So of course, that ups up to 70. That ties him for the league lead with the world famous Rock Richard Trophy winner, and deservedly so, Austin Matthews, who had 69 in the regular season and piled in another one in the postseason to get to 70. And whereas Hyman, it takes me back to learning equalities and inequalities in grade 5 arithmetic. This equals that, this is greater than that, this is less than that. Well, technically 54 plus 16 is equal to 69 plus 1, but I will argue that 54 plus 16 is much, much greater than 69 plus 1, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right, well, it's in more games, but that's a different issue.
Well, yeah, there's a reason they're playing more games. They're winning games because they're big guys coming through with big goals. And Zach's done that. He had a slow start to this series, but he scored a huge goal in the last game, and he got a huge goal tonight.
Bruce, the conundrum is, have the Oilers found the formula to win in the playoffs? And I will start it off by saying, yes, they have. If you've been reading my posts lately, they're highly repetitive because they focus, they always come to the same conclusion. Defense wins championships. This Oilers team will not win. They will not win. They won't beat Florida unless they play championship defense, unless they bring their A-plus defensive game. Bruce, they've now done it 3 games running. And they did it in each of the other series to win those series too, against LA, against Vancouver, and against Dallas. When the games are most important, generally speaking, the Oilers brought that A or A-plus game defensively. One game, a couple of times, Skinner has saved them. But they're doing it. They figured this out. And the Stanley Cup winning team from the past that this team reminds me of is the 1990 Edmonton Oilers. And I remember that team in the playoffs starting to play with what I would call machine-like efficiency in terms of snuffing out the other team's offensive ability, offensive plays. They were on the penalty kill. They were masters with Tikkanen and Curry working together in lockstep unison. We're seeing that again, that same kind of mastery on the PK. And now we're starting to see that even strength, just almost there's a few breakdowns, and a few players prone to it still. But what we see is, generally speaking, team-wide buy-in of the notion that not only should we play defense because it can help us win, we must play defense, and we must play it with focus and excellence if we're going to win. So I do think they found the formula. It doesn't mean they will win. The last 2 games, I think the grade A shots have been equal in both games. So it doesn't mean they'll win game 7. But they have found the formula to win game 7. Mm-hmm. And if they win it, it will be because of that, I believe.
Yeah, that's a good comp with the 90 Oilers, who gave up 8 goals in 5 games in the Stanley Cup Finals against a very fine team in Boston Bruins. If you remember that series, essentially it was a 6-game series because it took almost 6 periods to decide game 1 when Peter Klima scored 55 minutes into overtime. Well, guess what? Boston didn't score in those 55 minutes. Right? They only got 2 in regulation that night. And so they never got more than 2 in any game in that entire series. So that was huge. And Ranford got most of the credit, but it was a team thing for sure. Looking at the current series, yes, they found the formula. I'm very happy that in their background, they have success in going into a different team's barn in game 7 and winning there like they did against Vancouver. That's a good thing to have in their back pocket. The thing that worries me a little bit is a little bit of the psychological aspect of the game. And we've seen Florida up against it where they had a chance to win the cup. And they couldn't rise to the occasion. And we often see that the first chance the team has to win the cup, they don't. Well, Edmonton now, after 3 games of just merely trying to stay alive, they now have a chance to win the cup, but only 1 chance. And they're going to have to steel themselves to, play their best game and to not get, the cart ahead of the horse. And we saw this exact thing in 2006, David, when Edmonton stomped Carolina 4-0 in Game 6. And then they went into Game 7, and I remember saying basically the exact same thing. Boy, I'm a little bit nervous that, they might be thinking about what they could win as opposed to, just merely trying to keep their hopes alive. And they came out in that game, and they had like a real ugly first couple of minutes, and wouldn't you know, the damn puck went in the net, and Carolina had the lead, and that was a huge part of it. And so they just have to keep the composure, and it's easier said than done. On the other hand, they're a veteran team, and they have a number of great leaders on this team. So, I like their chances, but that just gives me a little bit of pause of, just a little different mindset. We're not playing so we can play another game next week. We're playing so we can,
So you're thinking there might be like Gollum dancing with the ring in his hand at the cracks of doom. They finally got it.
Yeah, my precious.
Yes, my precious. Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think you're right.
Concern, but
it's just there's a lot of pressure. I like what Kevin Bieksa said at the start of the game. Kevin Bieksa at the start of the game was saying there's just a ton of pressure in these games, and that's why it's so great to have the superstars, because they can still make the plays. They're used to making the plays under that kind of pressure. And the average guy just doesn't want to make a mistake, and he just starts holding his stick a little too tight. And I think we saw that on a few plays with some of the Oilers tonight. We will see that in Game 7 from both teams. And so let's wait the coin flip. It's like, as we say, the grade A shots have been pretty much equal the last couple of games. How would you weight the coin flip? What weight would you give the Oilers side, and what weight would you give the Panthers side?
50-50.
I'm going to say, because the Oilers have the greater talent, just going on the Bieksa axiom, the Bieksa rule, I'm going to say it's 60-40 for the Oilers. They win. I think they have a slight advantage. And if I had to bet real money on this game, I don't bet. I would bet on the Oilers because of McDavid and his ability, and some of the other players as well, like Bouchard, and some of the other players who can score a goal when you need to score a goal. I think the Oilers might have a bit more ability to come back in a game if they get behind than Florida does. So, and with Edmonton playing again that strong defense, if they do get the lead, it really does make it hard on the opposition now. So the Oilers shown they can hold the lead.
Yeah, well, Florida's got psychological issues of their own to deal with. I mean, the Oilers could well have gotten into their heads by this point. 3 straight times they had a chance to close it out. Twice they had their whole family fly all the way out to Edmonton in the hinterlands to watch them win the cup, only to get beaten down 8-1 and 5-1. I mean, this wasn't a beat down in any other sense but the scoreboard at the end of the game. But Florida has, after building that 3-0 lead, they've had their own issues, and I'm hoping they're starting to think they can't beat Edmonton. I mean, that'll level the psychological playing field in a quick hurry.
Yeah, the analogy of Gollum at the cracks of doom actually applies quite well to Florida at this point. But it's anyone's. It's a really close game, and I think the Oilers know this. I was worried about this game being a trap game, like the Oilers looking past it, because a lot of people were, a lot of fans were, commentators were looking past it to Game 7. But I heard McDavid interviewed, and that calmed me down quite a bit after the last game. And he was just, the interviewer was trying to get him to say how dangerous the team the Oilers were. And McDavid immediately sensed danger from that comment and said, no, that was just one game. Let's just get on the plane. We got another game. It's no big deal. We got to get after it. And I do think, Bruce, psychologically, the Oilers they will play. They're going to play strong defense. Not maybe to a man, but they will, as a team, generally speaking, get it done on defense. And it's going to be a hell of a game from the Edmonton Oilers on Monday night.
Yeah. Well, last year they fell into that trap.
They did.
You might recall they played Vegas. They lost Game 1, 3, and 5. They won Game 2 and 4. coming back for game 6, and the whole narrative was, well, after the Oilers win game 6, they take it back to Vegas and it's game 7 and anyone can win. Well, guess what? They didn't win game 6. They kind of gave it away in a very bad second period, and that was all it took. This year they faced that identical scenario where they lost games 1, 3, and 5 to Vancouver, and they got to game 6 this time at home, just like last year against Vegas, and they thumped Vancouver 5-1 and did take it back to Vancouver and did win game 7. So, they learned from that mistake is my takeaway from it. Of last year, maybe looking ahead to the next game instead of getting their heads fully engaged in this one. And I didn't think that was a real problem tonight. They got beat, players got beat from time to time, but I didn't think it was a case of head in the cloud or in the sand or
I agree.
Embedded in somebody spot or, whatever. There was, they were playing hard and mostly well, and playing against a good team, you're not going to win 100% of the battles, but they stayed, I thought, in the moment very well indeed.
Yeah, and you see that with a lot of the players, the maturity of their game. What we mentioned about McDavid is you can see it in Hyman's game, for instance, Bouchard's game. It's spreading through the team.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, you got to write the game grades. Let's leave it there for tonight.
Okay, one more of these to do, David. Let's hope we're smiling at the end of the next game, because if we are, we're really going to be smiling.
Thanks for talking tonight, Bruce.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.